at the time of investment on an ongoing basis in 2.0, you will earn a 5-year deferral. You invest in 27, 5-year deferral, 28, 5-year deferral. Again, previous legislation had that expiring over time. So no matter which year you invest, you earn the 5-year deferral and the 10% step up if it's an urban zone. But in the rural zone, and you spoke about now 30% of all census tracts, OZ zones, will be rural designated, they earn a 30% step up in basis. And that's quite significant. And we are paying close attention to these rural zones as they emerge and become clear. The other consideration in rural is that you have, as I understand it, no longer a 100% substantial improvement test, but a 50% substantial improvement test, meaning you could potentially buy an existing asset, put value add or adaptive reuse to that asset and meet the compliance for the legislation. So Jill, can you just confirm for me I'm correct, a 30% step up and a 50% substantial improvement test?
Yes, so it's in rural opportunity zones, the step up in basis is triple in rural, as you mentioned, and the substantial improvement was in half. And so if you imagine that you have $100,000 gain, and in a non-rural opportunity zone, your step up in basis and your, the taxes you pay on that gain would be reduced by 10%. In a rural, it's reduced by 30%. And in the example of the substantial improvement, if you imagine you bought a building for $100 a square foot with $20 in land, you would have to put another $100 plus in order to double the basis, meet that 100% threshold in a non-rural area. In a rural area, it's $50 plus. So, and it makes sense, right? Because if you think about in a rural area, your dollar goes further versus in a non-rural area. But also the policymakers were really trying to incentivize capital into rural areas, as I mentioned, because what they found in a report is that when you break down kind of the rural to non-rural investments, that the rural areas were underrepresented with investments. And so if you enhance the incentives and make it slightly less risky by requiring less capital, the idea is, you're kind of like meeting that risk return, enhance the return, reduce the risk to attract that capital. And that was really the intent there. With these rural incentives. And the definition of rural is 50,000 or less, and also not adjacent to another 50,000 or more community. So think of it as really trying to avoid suburbs, like pure suburbs, and that's kind of your definition of rural.
And it could be college towns. We saw a lot of student housing activity in college towns or resort towns or other rural locations that might, I could see the need for all sorts of different product types there, built to rent or storage or light industrial. So it's an exciting add-on to OZ legislation.